Okay, today we're going to talk about writing equations for circles. So you want to write your equation in standard form. It's the easiest. So standard form for the equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So that goes in a little box on your notes. And we talked about it yesterday. So your center is going to be h, k. That goes in the blank underneath that box, where hk is the center and r is the radius. So go ahead and fill in those blanks. Like I said, we talked about it yesterday. Oh, sorry. All right, so let's go through some examples. There's 4 different types of problems you'll see where you have to write the equation for a circle. The first one, we did this yesterday, where you're given the center and the radius, and you have to figure out what the equation is. So my center is negative 4, 6. My equation is going to be x plus 4 squared. You always want to do the opposite. Plus y minus 6 squared, take the opposite, equals r squared. So 4 squared is 16. So that's what we did yesterday. I'm going to let you do number 4. I'll give you about, 15 seconds, and then we'll check. So on number 4, you should have gotten x minus 9 squared plus y squared equals 75. Okay, my center was 9, 0. And then my radius was 5 square root of 3. And if I square that, 5 square root of 3 squared, that's going to give me 75. So let's say you have a graph like number 5, and you want to write the equation for it. You have to find your center and your radius first. So on number 5 on that graph, my center is negative 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4. And my radius, my distance from the center to the end of the circle, is 2 units. So I'm going to start in my center. I'm going to count either up, down, left, right. It doesn't matter. It's the same for a circle. But I'm going to count how far to the right I have to go to get to the end of my circle. Okay, so then you can write your equation. X plus 3 squared and y plus 4 squared. Okay, you take the opposite of your x and the opposite of your y, and that's going to equal r squared. So 2 squared is 4. Now, we're skipping some problems. The problems we don't do together, that you don't do with the video, that's going to be your homework. So you'll have 7 problems for homework. It's not bad. But you'll have an example of each one to follow if you need help. All right, so let's go to the back. Now, the back is a little bit harder. You should have learned in geometry the distance formula and midpoint formula, but let's go ahead and write those down in those boxes. Your distance formula, distance equals the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And that's all underneath the radical. But we're going to use the distance formula to figure out what our radius is. So if you want to write out beside distance formula, we're going to use it to find our radius. We're going to find the distance between the center point and an end point. Now your midpoint formula, instead of subtracting your x's, we're going to add our x's together and divide by 2. And that's going to tell us where our middle point is between those two numbers. Okay, same with y. We're going to take both y values, add them together, and divide by 2. This midpoint formula, for a circle, we're going to use it to find the center. So if they give us 2 endpoints, that's going to tell us what our diameter is, pretty much. So to find your center, you want to find the middle between those 2 endpoints. So the midpoint formula will give you your center. All right, so now let's look at number 7. On number 7, they give us the center, which is good. You don't have to find that. And they give us an endpoint. So we're missing our radius. We don't know what our radius is. And we need that to write our equation. So what we're going to do is we're going to find the distance between the center and the endpoint, and that's going to tell us what our radius is. All right, now whenever you do x2 minus x1, it doesn't matter what order you put it in. You could do -2 minus -4, or you could do -4 minus -2. It doesn't matter. As long as you use the same order for your y values. So if I do first minus the second for my x's, I have to do first minus second for my y's also. Okay. So as long as you're consistent, you're fine. For me, I always do second minus the first. It's just habit, but you'll end up with the same answer. So I'm going to take -4 minus -2 for my x's, and I'm going to square that. Plus, I'm going to take my y2, which is 12, minus y1, which is 6. I'm going to square that. Now, in your calculator, I would put in just everything that's underneath the radical. So don't square root it yet. So we're going to do -4 minus -2 squared plus 12 minus 6 squared. Do not put the radical. So everything underneath. That's all you're going to put in. Parentheses -4 minus -2 squared plus 12 minus 6 squared. Okay, and you should get 10. So my distance, or you could go ahead and say your radius, equals the square root of 10. Now the reason I didn't want you to square root it yet is because in our equation, we're going to need r squared, right? Okay. If I take my radius, square root of 10, and I square it, what's going to happen is my radical and my squared are going to cancel each other out. Okay, so in my equation, I'm going to put equals 10. So x plus 2 squared, I'm using the center here, plus y minus 6 squared equals 10. So if you square rooted it, I mean, that's fine, but it just makes it an extra step. Okay, because if I'm writing the equation, I want r squared. So I'm going to figure out what's underneath the radical, and that's going to be what my equation equals to. All right, I want you guys to try number 10, and then we'll check. It's a lot easier to understand if you're trying it out, and then I can help you all here in a minute. So go ahead and try it. I'll give you 30 seconds, and